chapter 107. Yeah, Kuf Zayin, chapter 107. On Aleph, number 1. Kol Chodesh Nisan ein oimim tachnun. The whole month of Nisan, we don't say tachnun. So those who are davening every day, the full davening, they like this. But so we don't say the tachnun. The I guess it's when we're admitting our mistakes and we're accepting upon ourselves to improve, and various prayers that go along with tachnun we admit as well. So, for example, with a Siddur Kadin, Siddur Kadin is a section of the burial service.
Excuse me, Rabbi.
Yeah.
The last class that I have written down was Kuf Mem Bet.
Yes, that was Purim.
Yeah, but that was 142.
Correct.
And now we are back to 107?
Yeah, we're not going back, we just never did it.
Oh, okay, so I changed the book. Now I have to go and get the other book again.
Okay, my apologies.
Okay.
107. So the whole month of Nisan is a joyous month. So we're going to explain in a few lines what's so good about this month that we don't have it in other months. So till we get to those few lines, just take my word for it. So,
okay.
But we see the majority of the month is a joyous occasion. So once the majority of the month are joyous occasions, the entire month becomes joyous, and therefore we don't say tachnun. We don't say these parts of the davening that we're focusing on the negative, because it doesn't belong on joyous days. We don't say Siddur Kadin. Siddur Kadin is a part of the funeral service. On the days we don't say Siddur Kadin, we say something else instead. Again, Siddur Kadin focuses on accepting Hashem's judgment, as Hashem being the true judge. And although that's a very powerful and important thing to accept, but on days that are joyous, it doesn't belong. It's not what, everything in the right time in the right place. Everything in the right time in the right place. We don't say the Sidkoscha prayer. It's 3 sentences, 3 psukim at the afternoon service of Mincha, because this refers to 3 great tzaddikim who passed away Shabbos afternoon. And although it's a very powerful and deep tefillah, but it's not for the joyous day.
That's before the Amida, I think.
It's after the Amida.
After the Amida? Okay.
It's after the repetition.
Before the Torah or something. It's before something.
No, that's another. That's one need to philosophy. So here the Sidkoscha is after the Chazan's repetition, before we say the Kaddish.
Okay.
So again, it's powerful, but it doesn't belong. They tell the story. It's mildly humorous. The fellow who walked into the great synagogue of the town that takes hundreds, maybe thousands of people, with a banana peel on his head. And someone says to him, you've got a banana peel on your head. He says, it's my minhag, it's my custom. Goes, takes a few steps in further. Someone else stops him and says, you have a banana peel on your head. He says, it's my minhag, it's my custom. So finally his best friend calls him aside. He says, Yankel, you're making a fool of yourself. What are you doing? He says, well, my family custom is every 172nd Thursday, we wear a banana peel on the head. So he says, Thursday? Today's Monday. He goes, oh, the embarrassment, the shame, and he quickly pulls it off, right? So that's the story they tell to say there's a time and a place for everything, right? So in the right time it works, in the wrong time it's no good. Not that I'm suggesting you accept that custom of wearing banana peels in your head, but it's just
That was my next question, Rabbi. When do you wear your banana peel?
It only works if people have hair, so it's, otherwise it doesn't stay on.
Try a coconut peel.
Coconut, yeah. That's it. That's then I look like I have hair. All right.
That's why we have clipped banana.
That's it. So all of these things are very important. Tachnun is a very important thing. If we don't accept responsibility for our mistakes and decide to grow, then we're going to stagnate spiritually. It's very important, but it has to be in the right time and place. Right? So all of these things are very important. And it's not we're looking for excuses. Our Yetzer Hara sometimes when there's no tachnun goes, woohoo, especially it's Monday or Thursday with the extra tachnun, but that shouldn't be. We should actually look forward to tachnun. Tachnun is when we're accepting responsibility for any faults that we may have. Not that I make mistakes. I once thought I made a mistake, but then I realized I was wrong. But anyway, so what makes these days so special? So we're going to start explaining. We begin on Rosh Chodesh on the first day of the month and onwards, right? For the first 12/13 days, we'll see we're really 12, but the 13th day was to an extent. Likros b'chol yom, we read each day Pashas Hanosi Shikru Bo B'yom, the Pasha, the section of the Torah of the Nossi, the tribal prince that they brought that day. So what happened was like this. When it came time to build the Mishkan, right, a few Pashas ago, we read in the Torah, Hashem asked everyone to contribute materials, 13 materials to build the Mishkan. And everyone came running. Now the princes, the Nasiim, were super rich. They were today the equivalent of multi-billionaires. And they thought to themselves, well-intentioned, they weren't trying to get out of contributing, but they had a little meeting and they said, what should we bring? And they decided, you know what? We could bring anything. So let's wait till last. Let's wait till everyone else brings, and we'll cover the shortfall. Whatever the shortfall is, we're going to cover. And again, they weren't using this as an excuse. They expected there to be a significant shortfall. But what happened was, at a certain point, Moshe had to tell people, stop bringing. They already had more than they needed. So stop bringing. And although they did bring a few precious stones, but at the end of the day, relatively speaking to what they could have and should have contributed, they contributed nothing. When the Mishkan was built and was being dedicated, they learned from their mistake. In other words, only Hashem is perfect. We're all going to make mistakes. That's just part of life. The question is, what happens next? Right? Do we dig in our heels to say, no, I was really right? Or do we accept responsibility and we do something different? And this is what the Nasiim did. Soon it was dedicated, they said, we're going first. Right? What they should have done, even though they had good intentions of saying, we'll cover the shortfall, their leaders, people looked up to them. They should have gone first, given something significant straight away to show leadership, to show everyone, this is what you need to do. And that was a mistake. Again, well-intentioned, but a mistake. So as soon as it came to dedication, they went first and they brought, as a group, they gave wagons and oxen. And then as individuals, each prince for the first 12 days, each of the 12 tribes, brought a rather significant contribution and offerings. And so they learned from their mistake. So that's just number one. This is a lesson that we can just take in life that, we're all human and often when we make a mistake, the Yetzer Hara wants to try and work on us to make us feel like we're useless and we're losers, God forbid, and we can't achieve anything and just give up, or we should feel miserable. But we're meant to ignore those thoughts. We made a mistake, can't change the past. So what are we going to do about it? Let's learn for the future and move on. And that has to be an attitude. So that's number one. They learn from the mistake. But the significance here is, whichever tribe you are from, the day your prince, your Nossi, brought the offering is a yontif for your tribe. It's a tribal yontif. And there's two issues here. Issue number one is the overwhelming majority of us do not know what tribe we're from. And there are a few people who, they know they're descended from someone famous who was known to be descendant from, let's say, King David or something. So they know they're from the tribe of Judah. Or a few Kahanim. Most Kahanim don't have a record to prove that they're Kahanim. But there are some people that know, and normally again, it's descended from someone famous. And they know that person, he was known. So the majority of us don't know 100% certain, even though some of us might be reasonably sure, but over a majority of Jews don't know what tribe they come from. So it could be any of the days is a yontif for us. That's number one. And number two, the other issue is an ibur. I'm going to explain the ibur in a moment. We could have an ibur. What's an ibur? An ibur, before we say what it is, we'll say what it isn't. It's not a possession, right? So in order to help us understand what it is, we'll start explaining what it's not. So possession is called the dibuk. The dibuk means there's a soul that usually was, it's not a punishment because it was so bad, but what is because the person was so materialistic and so non-spiritual that even when they pass away, they can't make the shift in their mind or they can't make a shift in their thought to realize they're now in a spiritual state. Now, even other souls, regular souls, there's a transition period. Some people are so spiritual that they, it uses their expression of when they pass away. It's like taking a hair with tweezers out of warm milk. No, it just slides out. I'm not that I've ever tried to take hair out of tweezers out of warm milk, but apparently, to be honest with you, if I found hairs in my milk, I'd probably just pour it out. But if you did take it out, it's apparently an easy thing to do.
Rabbi,
so some people, yes.
I need to ask you something. If a person is so spiritual, he has a hard time actually going to the next stage of existence. Is that what you're saying?
No, someone's saying when someone's very spiritual, the transition is very easy.
Oh,
Because they're already in a very spiritual
Okay.
mind. There are certain people
okay.
who it's not just materialistic. I'm not going to say they're necessarily evil people but they were definitely lustful people. And people who were so materialistic that there's no spirituality for them. It was all about self gratification.
It's all about stuff and not about anything higher above. Okay.
So someone who's only focused in their lifetime on self gratification, sometimes they can't make that transition, or it takes hundreds of years. They're like stuck in they're stuck in this physical world, so to speak, because they can't change their level of consciousness, but they don't have a body. So they're wandering, and this wandering, it's very painful. Imagine no one can see you, no one can talk to you, you can't move anything, you can't do anything, stuck in the world, but they're going out of their mind. So sometimes when they find an opportunity to move into another body, they go for a hostile takeover. Right? That's a position. That's a dibuk. A dibuk is a soul that essentially is attempting a hostile takeover on someone else's body, and they need a good Kabbalist to move them on. Just as a side point, yes.
Isn't it true that the shofar, a shofar or a number of shofars can chase the dibuk out of the body?
I don't think just by blowing a shofar, a person's going to have certain intentions. I mean, it's not scared of a sound. A person, it's really a specialized skill to remove a dibuk.
Are you talking about exorcism?
Essentially, yes. But I hate to use that word because it's such a
it's all
Christian connotation, But
I understand.
Well, to remove it from the body. That's so anyway. People sometimes ask, why don't we see it nowadays? There's a lot of factors. One factor is that the more superstitious the society is, the more it invites these things. And today, when we live in a world where it's generally a disadvantage, but in this respect, it's an advantage that people are so not connected to souls and different things. So it makes it much harder for a soul to have any connection. That's number one. Number two, this is not my theory. It's a theory I've heard from someone else. I think I've shared it here before, but I believe this theory is true, that, 500 years ago, some people thought to have a dibuk really just needed a good psychiatrist, while there are people today drugged up in asylums who really need a good Kabbalist. And so I think that's just unfortunate the situation. But a dibuk is a hostile takeover. An ibur is totally different. An ibur stays in the background and comes and helps. Now, possibly in your life, you may have had a very, very difficult situation and you didn't feel you had the strength to overcome. And somehow you got this extra strength or this extra insight. It may have happened. Now, there's many reasons why this could have happened, but one of the reasons is an ibur. An ibur is usually the soul of an ancestor. Not always, but very often. And it comes to help. And the same way when the 3-year-old's making the chocolate cake and really the mother's making it and the 3-year-old's just making the mess, or the 10-year-old even, right? But the kid thinks they made the chocolate cake themselves, and the mother, so to speak, although they're doing everything, is in the background, but because they love their child, they're allowing the person to feel they did it themselves. An ibur is a soul, as said, usually a relative, sometimes a great spiritual leader who cares like you, like an ancestor, and comes to help a person through a difficult challenge, either physical or spiritual, and stays in the background, giving the person the feeling that they accomplished it themselves. So it's temporary, and it's not only not a hostile takeover, it's not a takeover at all. It's just in the background helping, and when the job's done, they go. So even if a person knows they come from a certain tribe, possibly they have an ibur with them, which belongs to a different tribe. So although we say it every day, there's a hirotzon. There's a certain prayer afterwards that says, the hirotzon means, Hashem, let it be your will, that if I come from this tribe, it should be, like this is all those spiritual accomplishments of the tribe should affect me, etc., etc. So why do we say the hirotzon? Even someone who knows their tribe, there was the Rebbe Rashab, the two Chabad Rebbes ago, he had a relative who was known to be a Kohen, right? He could trace his, not only he had tradition as Kohen, he could actually trace his family tree. And he asked, why should I say the hirotzon? I know what tribe I'm from. And answered him, because you might have an ibur that belongs to this tribe, and so therefore it's appropriate to say it also. So we say this for the 12 days because any of us could have come from the tribe, any of these tribes, or even if we feel we belong for a tribe, could be we have an ibur. And the fact that was, that we say this because that reason implies an ibur is a lot more common than we would think it would be. Right? And then on the 13th day, so what happened when these 12 princes brought their offering? When we say 12, although when we talk about the 12 tribes, there's two ways to look at the 12 tribes. There's the 12 tribes, meaning Yaakov's 12 sons, but often we do not include the tribe of Levi because they were counted separately. The Levim, the Kohanim, they had a sort of separate job. And the tribe of Yosef is divided into two, into Ephraim and Manasseh. So in this case, the 12 tribes did not include Levi. It was Ephraim and Manasseh, the two subgroups of Yosef. So at that point, Aaron, who was the prince of the tribe of Levi, Aaron the high priest, he felt bad. His tribe is not bringing an offering. And Hashem told him, don't worry. You're feeling bad because they're bringing one day an offering. You're working in the Beis HaMikdash every day. And the highlight of that is the menorah, and that's why the mitzvah of the menorah is immediately after the offerings of these tribes. So, and on the 13th day of Nisan, Kodim Pashas Baloischa, we read from the beginning of the next Pasha, Baloischa, Ad Ki Osas Menorah, until he made the menorah, till those words. She Keneged Shevet Levi, and this corresponds to the tribe of Levi. So the first 13 days, semi yontiv, it's obviously not a yontiv, we can't do malacha or different things like that. But there's special days, because of the special days for each of these 13 tribes.
I'm sorry, Rabbi, which parak are you on?
Kuf Zion,
Thank
and
you.
we're going to start base. So since these 13 days are special, then just as a side point, the 14th day is when we will bring the Paschal lamb. Then you got 7/8 days of Pesach, right? That's already up to 22nd of the month, right? So the majority of the month has become special. So that's why the whole month we don't say these things. Now, because the whole month is special, not only we leave out these prayers and we say the Nossi, base number 2, Ein misanim boy afilotinus yotzeit. We're not meant to fast during this month, entire month, even those who have accustomed to fast on their parents' yotzeit. Avotinus cholim misanim, but someone who wants to fast because they had a bad dream that they feel is a sign from heaven, they're allowed to fast. The other exception is that the firstborn fast on Erev Pesach. Now, although we're going to get to this later, the custom nowadays is essentially we don't fast because, imagine you fasted till the end of the day and then you sit down and try and run your Seder. It's going to be a very difficult Seder when you really want to have something to eat and drink. So what happens is that we attend some type of meal of a mitzvah, which allows a person to eat. So if there's a bris or something like that, and if there's not one of those, we make a siyum on a masechta. We complete a tractate of the Talmud. Right, completing an entire tractate is certainly quite an accomplishment, and therefore there's a meal afterwards, a siyum. So someone eats there. Which in a few chapters we're going to explain about the fast of the firstborn. Now, another exception is a chosam v'kala gam misanim boy, a bride and groom who fast on the day of the wedding. So Jewish bride and groom, the day of the wedding is like their personal Yom Kippur. They're forgiven. Like their life starts all over again. So it's like their personal Yom Kippur. So they fast until after the wedding. My grandson wants to come say hello. This is Yitzchok. So he say hello. So he the bride and groom also fast during Nisan if they get married. Not only on the regular day, but afilo Rosh Chodesh Nisan, even on Rosh Chodesh, which Rosh Chodesh is a semi-yontiv in its own right before we even get to the month of Nisan. So all of these things, the bride and groom still fast. Okay, Gimel number 3. The Shabbos Hagadol lemincha. Now Shabbos Hagadol. Shabbos Hagadol is the Shabbos before Pesach. Now it's called Shabbos Hagadol. The real reason it's called Shabbos Hagadol is because a great miracle happened on the Shabbos before Pesach. Right? In order to give the Jewish people some merits, Hashem gave them a mitzvah, not only to bring the Paschal lamb, but they should take the lamb from the farm, from the field, bring it with a leash, essentially, into the town where the home is, tie it to their beds, and keep it there for a few days, and then shecht it. Now, the sheep was one of the Egyptian idols. And therefore, there's some parts of the world today, you see they worship cows. And if a cow walks onto the highway, everyone just says, stop and wait. You can't push the cow. Push the cow, you get stoned or something. So that's what it was like in those days in that country with sheep. That's how it was with sheep. So you can imagine the scene. You just got this commandment, right? You've been slaves to these people for 210 years. They've whipped you and flogged you and everything else. And Hashem tells you, okay, you're going to take this sheep through the street leash, which is illegal. So probably they're just going to stone you. If they don't stone you, first they're going to walk up and say, what are you doing? And you say, well, I'm taking it to my house and tying it to my bed for 3 days, which is also illegal. So if they don't stone you then, they're going to say, why are you doing that? Well, my God told me to slaughter it and paint its blood on the doorposts. And that way I'll have a merit that Hashem was going to skip over my house when he kills all the Egyptian firstborn. So you can imagine how well everyone thought that was going to go down. So nevertheless, people did it. You know, you can imagine people probably huddled in groups. I'll try and stand in the middle so when they throw the stones, I don't get too many. I mean, it was a terrifying thing. But they did it, self-sacrifice. And an incredible miracle happened. Not only did the Egyptians not attack the Jews, when they heard what's happening, the firstborn made a rebellion against Pharaoh. They came to Pharaoh and said, hey, this is going to happen. Let him out. We don't want to die. And Pharaoh, being the kind, benevolent king he was, sent out the soldiers to take care of the firstborn. There ended up being a civil war. Firstborn against the rest of Egypt. More Egyptians were killed in the civil war than all the 10 plagues. So this miracle happened, not that we're celebrating that they died. It's one of the reasons, of course, at the Seder we pour out some wine. We mentioned the 10 plagues because we're commiserating that people had to die. They just could have been nice and let us go. But a miracle that we were saved. So that's why it's called Shabbos Gadol. It's Nahagin Shein Omer Baruch Nafshi. We have a custom not to say Baruch Nafshi. Now, in the Chabad Sid, we won't say it anyway, but those who do say it. Elavodim Hayinu V'chul. But we read from the Haggadah. Read a section of the Haggadah from beginning from when we were slaves until up to just before Dayenu. We read just at that point. The fish of Shabbos Hagadol has Chalas Hagulav and Nisim. Shabbos Hagadol was the beginning of all the miracles. Of course, Shabbos Hagadol is when the rabbi gives one of the biggest speeches of the year. So some people, tongue-in-cheek, call it the Shabbos Hagadol means the big Shabbos, the great Shabbos. You know, it's because it seems like it goes on forever due to the rabbi's speech. That's one of the reasons. Yeah, but it's, you know, it's when I give my Shabbos Hagadol speech, it doesn't bother me. People keep looking at their watches. I only get worried when they start shaking the watch to see if it still works.
Very funny, Rabbi.
So that was we did a whole chapter today. So we'll start chapter 108 tomorrow, God willing. Any questions before we finish up for the day?
Rabbi, I have a joke for you.
Please.
Okay. Rabbi of a shul, every time he gets up to give a drasha on Shabbat, he notices that one of his congregants falls asleep. So this happens every week, each and every week. Then one day, when the rabbi's about to start, he notices that that his congregant is already asleep. So he goes up to his congregant to follow, after the tefillah, and he says, "So what happened? You were already asleep. You normally wait until I start speaking before you fall asleep." So the congregant said to the rabbi, "I trust you."
Yeah. I got to say though, on the occasion that someone has fallen asleep in my talk, I actually feel good that I was able to help a fellow Jew have a good nap.
Oh, stay safe, everybody.
All right, Rabbi.
So see you on tomorrow.
Thank you,
Yes,
Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you for sharing the joke.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Rabbi.
trust me.
I went to Rabbi Shapiro, to Rabbi
Warner.
Harbor. So he asked me afterwards, so how was my drasha? I said, Nishtahin, Nishtaher. He goes, what do you mean? I said, not long enough to stay awake. I mean, not short enough to stay awake, and not long enough to get a good nap.
I'm sure you appreciated that. So, Bruce, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. If I give you my
phone number. Would you be kind enough to call me? I'd like to talk to you for a moment.
Sure. It's,
Okay.
what you want to put in the chat?
No, I don't want it in the chat.
You can chat just to me directly.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me see if I can get it then. Hold on, Rabbi.
I don't have to be here. Sei gesund, Rebbe.
Take care.
Bye, Rabbi.
Well,
Thank you, Rabbi.